And just so I get a sense, how many of you have created a website before? Okay. Posted on a blog? Okay, posted on YouTube? Okay, cool. So this, you might all be more specialized in what these slides actually talk about. So if you have more specific questions, ask me and I'll do my best. Okay? Okay, cool. So I'm going to get started. Please, really, ask questions. Oh, these mugs are to incentivize people to talk. So do the American thing.
You're going to talk about what trends? Google trends, I mean?
I'm going to talk about insights for search. Are you familiar with insights for search? It's similar to trends.
Okay.
I think it's a more powerful tool than trends, personally.
There's another tool also which shows you how many searches are happening for a specific word.
Yeah. I'll talk about that. Yeah, if that's useful. Any other topics that are interesting to people about? Actually, you get a mug for that. I'm going to hit somebody in the head by throwing it. Okay.
Things like you mentioned Arabic content, using like the translations and
yeah, so the question is, please come in, have a seat. It'll be more fun if you can see the screen, so further this way is better. The question is, am I going to talk about translation? I wasn't planning on it in the context of this thing. If you want to come up to me afterwards, I can tell you what I know and point to people who are actually with us, but I wasn't going to cover translation. Okay, cool. So, product manager, Google, based in New York. Going to talk about content. The more questions, the better. So, what do I mean when we say content? I don't just mean HTML, CSS websites. I mean a bunch of different things. This is traditionally what people have thought about the early web, then blogs came by, and now we're getting to applications, social updates, Twitter, Google+, all that kind of stuff. All of that's considered content. As much of it as the more open it is, the more accessible it is, the better it is for everyone, we think, the easier it is for Google to index and to serve to people. That's why sometimes we don't like forums so much. If you are required to log in, also it makes it a lot harder to find a lot of that content. That's a personal bias I have, but yeah. So, I'm going to start out with the state of Arabic content today. Nelson talked about it a little bit in the keynote this morning. You guys are probably more familiar with this than I am in terms of like a day-to-day usage. You guys are going to have to help me out with some of the Arabic examples I have. But at a very high level, the content's not there, right? Internet growth is speeding up in the region. More and more people are coming online. More and more people are searching. But if you look at how much content there is, there's about half as much content as there should be compared to other languages, right? So what's that mean? That means that a lot of people go online looking for answers, and they don't get good answers, okay? There's a lot on this slide. I'll send out a link to the presentation later. I'm not going to go into it, but basically it's the number of documents, number of websites, references per Arabic user is much lower than other languages. If you look at Polish over here, it's really small, but it's a pretty ridiculous difference there. And the good news is that there's been a huge increase over the last 2 years to be specific. And whereas before it seems like Egypt was the hub of content creation in Arabic, that's moving to Saudi. Saudi has been publishing a ton of content. Saudi Arabia has been publishing a ton of content in the last 2 years, which is great. The downside of it, oh wait, sorry. These are examples of, there's lots of local portals popping up. The downside of it is that it's not diverse. So like I said, there's not enough content on there, and the content that is coming up, it's all in a few specific verticals, right? Basically, 75% of it are in these top categories. There's a lot of it in news, there's a lot of it in forums, there's a lot of aggregators out there. But what we call the longer tail content, like the useful queries, like the specific niche stuff, it's not there yet. So we're seeing this growth of content, but it's not addressing the needs that users have. So far, so good? Any questions? Making sense? Okay, good. Stop me, tell me to talk slower, tell me to talk faster, whatever you need. Going back to my forum point, culturally, in Saudi, there's been in a lot of Arabic content, there's been a lot of forums, which is great because it's been an easy way to get content out there. It's not the cleanest way to organize content. Sometimes it's hard. We have to go through a lot of different threads to find what we're looking for. Sometimes it's not up to date. You get useful information from a few years ago. So what would be nice would be a bit more, professionally curated content that makes it easier to find. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Well, basically what I'm saying is that there are more and more people coming online, searching for things, and there's not a whole lot of content out there, which means they're not getting really good answers. Now, when I see that, I see an opportunity, because if you make good content, I'm going to talk about how to do that, anyone in this room can do that, and you put it online, and we do a good job of ranking the web, which is what we try to do, that means that your content is going to show higher in search results, because the competition's not very good. And if content shows up higher in search results, that means you're going to get eyeballs, because people are looking for answers, and if you provide good answers, we're going to go to your website. You're getting eyeballs, you can build a brand and make some money, hopefully. You can monetize that. So I see this as an opportunity. It's a very exciting time right now to be putting stuff on the web. So I'm basically going to go through, step by step, how I would evaluate an opportunity for content creation and putting that online, right? And the first thing is choosing vertical, in my opinion. Right? And this is what I was talking about. There's a lot of different, over here you see the example verticals: news, finance, politics, education. Sometimes you see religion in there, jobs, classified, sports, film, music, entertainment, that kind of stuff. Right? Now this diagram isn't very scientific, but the idea here is that depending on the vertical that you're in, the type of content you need to put online for it to be good needs to be different. Right? So if it's a news site, it probably matters that the content on there is fresh. Right? If it's not fresh, no one's going to check. If it's a classified site or a job site, if you're searching for all the jobs out there, and your website doesn't have a lot of coverage, it only has 20% of the jobs out there, people aren't going to like your site. They're going to like the site that has more coverage because they want to go to one place to search, right? And this is pretty much what you would expect, but it's an interesting way to think about the problem, right? So if you want to get into the content business, you say like, well, what am I good at, or what am I really interested in? Is it something where it's like I want to have a lot of different people posting a lot of different content so I get a lot of comprehensive coverage, or do I want to be very, very specific, get high quality like opinion? Do I want to go over here in the high quality graphs if you want to talk about, like, for example, business analysis, right? You don't need to have that much content. You need to be really good. You might not care what your neighbor thinks about business. You probably care a lot more what an expert thinks about business. If you're going to make some big decisions like that. So after you choose a vertical or a few verticals that might be interesting to you, the next question that I think is relevant is, what are people already searching for? You can kind of close your eyes and write down, like, okay, in this vertical, here are the questions I think people have. But Google provides some tools which helps you, and this is what this gentleman was talking about before, helps you see what people are already searching for. And the one I'm going to talk about, there's also Google Trends. I think Insights for Search is the most powerful tool. Let's see if this opens up. Have you guys used Insights for Search before? Yes? Okay. I think some of you know, so I'm going to still go through it. Tell me if it's boring, right? Basically, what Google does with Insights for Search is that we look at all the searches we get, and we get a ton of searches a day, right? And then we combine all that data into aggregates. So, very careful about privacy, but you have millions of users searching for different things. You can talk about trends, and that's useful. And then we let you slice and dice and see on a graph over time how many people are searching for different topics, right? So if I go back to the vertical, let's say I look at sports, because I think it's pretty interesting, and I do 2004 to the present, sports, the entire web, and I do a search, like, what are the kind of things you'd expect people to be searching for? Like, what do you think the most popular queries are going to be? Say, somebody shut something out.
Schools.
Sports?
Schools.
Oh, schools, okay. Anything else?
Soccer,
football, yeah. Final, okay, so here is the actual worldwide count. Football, sport, golf, weird. ESPN, sports, NFL. I think these are biased towards English, but these are the top queries, and these are the ones, the rising searches are the ones that have been getting a lot of increase recently, in the last few days or weeks, right? Now, what's interesting for you guys, I think, is when you restrict this from worldwide to Saudi, right? Okay, now what do you guys think it's going to be? Football, soccer. Okay, ready? And you're going to have to help me with the names here, because I don't know how to pronounce them. So it's football and then the name of three teams, right? And then after that, what are the okay. So you guys care about football, right? Like that's what I'm guessing. Yeah. If you
This is better than trend.
This is a lot better than trends, I think.
Yeah. Trend is actually things.
It doesn't work?
Yes.
Yeah, well, everything's in the cloud. Sometimes we mess things up. What's interesting here is you can see, this part's funny, but basically you can see over time what happens, and what I would expect to see here is when there's a World Cup or when there's a big championship, you see a big rise in queries because people are going to be more interested. This dotted line here is, we're trying to predict the future. It's our best guess of how many people are going to be searching for this type of content in the next few months based on previous history. You know, if Saudi wins the World Cup, then we can't really predict that, so we'll probably get that wrong. But, and another useful feature here, I think, is basically, let's say I take this term, paste it in here. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I want to get the two top teams. This is the first team, right?
Yeah.
The left to right selection is always okay. One. Two. See if that works. So I don't know who's a fan of what team here, but basically you can see the interest in these two teams over time, and they've kind of. Which one's the red one?
The red one is Jeddah based.
Is Jeddah based, and the other one's based what?
In Riyadh.
In Riyadh. So you guys mostly root for this?
I'm from Riyadh.
You're from Riyadh. Okay. Everyone else here? A brave soul saying that, I think. Yeah, and then you can also look. I mean, I'd expect this to be. We have to do one at a time, but I'd expect searches to be somewhat geographically based, so the Jeddah team will get more Jeddah searches, the more searches in Jeddah and from Riyadh. Anyway, the basic idea here is don't imagine like the web is this black box. You can actually look at these tools and see what people are already searching, and that's the best way to choose what kind of content you want to make, right? Back to the presentation. So the next thing I want to talk about is how do you evaluate existing content, right? Because if you type in a search for Google, it's very, very rare that you're going to get 0 results. Like, how many times does that happen? It's usually like it must, I don't know, paste in a huge number and that's what you get. Otherwise you can get some kind of results. Some of those are really bad, right? Others are really good. And the biggest question you should have in your mind is this what the user wanted? You know, it's not like, do these websites match these words? Is like, every time someone searches something, there's a human just trying to figure something out. Who's trying to answer a question, and what you want to do is you want to give them the best content to answer that question. It's a query. Yeah, exactly. So I think this is a really good example. Somebody please say this in Arabic for me, because I don't know. Right?
Tips for just in writing.
Exactly. Tips for writing a CV, right? How many people have done that here? Anybody? Come on. Mugs are on the line. Somebody here. You're going to get a mug. But I'm not going to throw it at you because it's going to get angry. Yeah. Did you have a question? Or did you just say you don't? I mean, so I did this search a few years ago and I had to write my CV. I did a bunch of research online. I didn't go to a concert. Like, all the information I got to do this came from the internet. And that's a big part of the reason why I got into Google. So this is a very important search in my life. And a lot of that was like the content that was online. So if we actually show you the websites that show up for this query on google.com.sa, these are the results, right? And I don't speak Arabic, so you're going to help me out a little bit. But the first thing I want to point out is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I see some dates that are already pretty old. You know, we're talking about 3, 4 years old. That doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence, right? Second thing is, like, the fifth result is a doc, which means it's a file that's a Microsoft Word format, which means I can't even look at it on the web. If a user clicks on this, they have to download it, and they have to have Microsoft Word, and they have to open up Microsoft Word and they can see it. So now later I'm going to talk about the principles of what good content is. You want to make sure people can get to information quickly. This is a very, very bad way to do that.
Latest we can put more in the one day, like last 24 hours, last month, like less.
You're saying basically we can restrict the search to be recent. Yeah, we can definitely do that. The problem is, you'll see, I just don't think there's that much content out there, so you'll get even less stuff. But we can try that later if you want. So, and then if I go here and if I click on the top results, right, and again, this isn't my culture, so I might be saying stupid things. This is what shows up for me. This is the top results for the resume query. Now, like I said, I don't speak Arabic, but I don't know if anything on this page actually helps me. I'm going to get there, yeah. But if this is what I see, it doesn't really answer my question, right? As a human of like what I want to write. If I scroll down under the ads, then I'm starting to get some content, right? And it looks like basically flat text in one big line. I mean, it seems to be on topic, but it's not presented in a very clean way.
Bad format.
What?
Bad formatting.
Exactly, bad formatting. Yeah. And again, I can't judge the specifics of what it's saying. My friends who looked at it said it was pretty good, but it can be a lot better. Next site that shows up is this one. This one, it's a forum, right? And again, I think it has good content, but it has comments from lots of different people. Again, it's not particularly well organized, and I think it's a little. No, this one's up to date. This was 2012. At least there's been some activity. What's this say? Just so I have a sense. Someone.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks a lot. Very useful. I got that one. What's this one?
It's the same as tomorrow.
Okay.
Is that a blocking?
This is a blog. Okay. Yeah, it's a blog entry. Let's see over here. Got a big thing at the top. Oh, look at that background.
College-specific website.
College in Egypt, right? So maybe not the most relevant information if you're in Jeddah trying to look for this kind of stuff, right? Maybe there's an opportunity. So I'm going to show you what the same query looks like. Yeah, in English. If I find it, here we go. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying it's like a different type of content that's there, right? First thing here is right away you get these image results, which are really useful because for me the biggest question in writing my resume was how to format it and what it should look like. It sounds stupid, it's actually a really big deal. If I click on the first page, this is the kind of content I'm getting. And basically it's immediately clear that I should be on this website to answer my question. The content's broken out into small pieces, so it's easily consumable, which means that I don't have to, I can quickly figure out if exactly the type of content, the type of question I have is on here. It enables me to get to the answer quickly. I don't need to scroll through a bunch of ads. I don't need to go down here. I don't need to click on a bunch of different stuff. Go to a different website. Again, very simple. It's not pretty, it's not fancy, but the content's relevant. And that's what Google cares about because that's what most people care about when they're searching for things. This website has some animation, whatever, but it has examples, which is huge. In this kind of situation, examples are oftentimes the number one thing. Yes?
Where are they going to have earned?
So the question is, how do these guys make money, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the type of websites that are on here, it's interesting to look at the URLs to see who's putting them up, right? So howtowritearesume.net, that's probably a website who makes money with that website. Like the reason they make that website is to make money. Same one with this .org one. There's also Rockport Institute, probably an education institution, so they don't care necessarily about making money. This is an Australian government, Canadian government. But the ones that make money with ads for the most part. Either ads or then selling services that help people write resumes. So there's a lot of different monetization channels you can do. Yeah?
What difference does it make if you put an Arabic query into the English site or an English query into google.com.sa?
Yeah. So if I go to google.com, what'll happen, and Google is in there and can correct me if they have more specific knowledge. Basically, we look at all the websites in the world, and if you put in an Arabic query, we'll try to give you the best results, most likely in Arabic, across the entire website index of the world, right? If you go to google.com.sa, we're going to give a higher ranking to websites and domains that are based in Saudi Arabia or nearby. So the results you're going to get are kind of different, but there's a ton of overlap between the two. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. So ads are a great place to start, but then if you put really good content out there, and people talk about it and refer their friends, and you build a brand because people trust you, then there's a whole lot of other directions that you can make money. And if we're talking about resume writing, a lot of these websites, if you go through them, you can do it later, have tutors, have a service where you can send in your resume and they'll give you notes or corrections on it. Some of them sell software that help you automatically format a resume, but that, like at that point, you're not really talking about content anymore. You're talking about services. Yeah. So far, so good. Does this make sense? Okay, great. So, the next question is decide how you will acquire content. Okay. Let's say you've chosen a vertical, you checked what people are searching for, you then looked at those queries, you decided the content out there is not that good, so you're going to create content, right? Well, so how do you get content? Somebody say something. What?
Create it.
You're going to create it? How?
From user.
From user, so you're going to create it yourself?
Yes.
Right? You're going to get users to make it for you?
Like
Yeah.
Flickr, like YouTube. I encourage users to make me the content.
Crowdsource it, exactly, yeah.
From digitization of licensing material.
So you're going to license some stuff and things like that. Those are the things I have on here. So basically, like, either you can write it yourself, if you have a lot of time and you're really good at writing, or you can license it, or you can get the community to create it for you. Different advantages and different disadvantages with every approach, right? Community moderation, I mean, you have to build the community. It's not necessarily easy to do that. That can take a lot of time. There's no guarantee of the quality of content when a community makes it, right? So you then have to build a community that polices itself or that pushes the best content out. And that's the advantage is that it's free and you get a lot of content, but that's the trade-off. If you're going to write it yourself, you can't write that much content. Maybe you're not the best writer, but if you're an expert in the field, that could be great. And then paying for content's interesting. You can either hire people and have them create the content, for you, or you can go out and license content that already exists. And maybe you want to package it in a different way. You want to maybe put it on a website that's useful to search. An example of this that I think is very interesting. I don't think I haven't been able to find an Arabic equivalent of this, but in the US, there's a website called IMDb. You guys used IMDb?
Yes.
Yeah, so the movie database, is there an Arabic equivalent of this?
Yes, there is one, I don't remember.
You don't remember the name? Wasn't that a forum? No? Is it a database that has information about movies?
Like IMDb, but there is a rosing of content.
There's a what?
There is not a rosing, there is no content.
I see. Interesting. Okay, yeah, so because that's, a lot of times when people think movies, they think, I want reviews or I want information about the movie stars, but something as simple as, here's the name of the movie, here's a summary, here's when it came out, here's the cast, that's still content, right? And IMDb gets tons of hits, and my guess is that maybe if it's not movies, maybe it's music, there are verticals that, in Arabic, where we don't have good local sites, either because it's not translated, or because we don't have a good list of all the local films that have been popular, So, so that's talking about acquisition of content. Okay, so let's say now that you've decided you want to create some content, what are some tools? And I think this is going to be a review for a lot of you, but I'm going to talk about Google tools here. Basically, there's a spectrum of how technical or how sophisticated you are and how complicated you want your website to be, right? At the very high end, you have something like Google Sites, which lets you create a website without a whole lot of knowledge necessary to code it. And that goes all the way down to something like App Engine, which is basically a hosting serving platform where you can create, it's free to start, and if you get a lot of traffic, you have to pay for it, and you can create these dynamic applications. Bloggers, great for blogging, YouTube, uploading videos. I think you guys get this. Yeah?
After the session, can we take the slides? Because there is a lot of information.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you a link to the slides. It's publicly available. You can take a video.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So this is to put content on the web. Another solution out there is to, hire a firm to create a website for you, right? And have them custom build it. And then you have more control on how it looks, and it's going to cost you more money. But if you want a quick, easy way, yeah?
The problem when you do this kind of thing, we have people building a database. Can Google go and read from the database that I have built or not?
So it's a question that basically, if I create a website that uses a database, like the movie example, is that?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay, so like the movie example, can Google read from that database? Can it see what's in there? Basically what you need to do is you need to build a website that exposes all the information in your database, right? In a way that Google can read it. So it sounds complicated, it's not hard, right? So all you need to have is one page for every movie in your database that's linked from your website and then Google will be able to follow all the links and find all that content.
So you mean an XML?
Yeah, and there are different ways of doing it. You can have a sitemap. You can that like our crawlers will read. It'll usually happen organically because like links on your site will link to different pages on there. But it needs to be accessible, right? It needs to be outwardly accessible in a way that Google can crawl it.
Isn't it limited to 100 site links, or you can go?
No, we can talk about that later. But basically, no, there's no way that you're limited to 200 site links. Like, well, if you have a huge website, we'll get all the pages. What was I talking about before? I totally forgot.
What was the question?
No, that one was a good question.
Oh, thank you.
I already got one.
Oh. Somebody else asked a question. Now I have a mug in my hand. You have a mug already, right?
No, I didn't have.
You don't have a mug? Oh, yeah. Do you move a mug to the gentleman in the back? Anyone else asking another question?
How to create a website?
Yeah, okay. How to create a website. So you can, customize site versus, these are really good ways to get some content out there. And there's this methodology or thinking online of failing fast, trying something out and seeing if people like it or not. Like what's really wonderful about the internet is that it's very easy to get feedback of whether what you're doing is interesting or not, if people are liking it or not. So maybe if you have this idea for this movie website, a good suggestion would be put a very basic website up maybe on Google Sites, right? Put some content on there and see if people click on it, right? See if they leave comments. If they don't, you have to either figure out, okay, my content's not good, people aren't finding it, or people don't care, right? And if you realize people don't care, then move on to a different area because it's not worth your time to try to build that out. So even if you're going to build a very big sophisticated website, these tools are very useful for testing and iterating, which I can talk about a lot because we do a lot of that at Google because we like to fail fast and fail to get better. So this is putting content out there. These are tools we talked about. Insights for search. Google Trends is very similar. I prefer Insights for search. Also, something as stupid as going to the Google website and then typing in some letters and seeing what the autocompletes are. It gives you a pretty good sense of what shows up, what people are searching for a lot. Website Optimizer, Google Analytics, and Webmaster Tools. These are tools that you use once you have a website up to make it more efficient and more effective. So basically make it easier for people to find. And
To measure the user.
exactly, to measure user flow. So how, people come to the website and they leave immediately. Is that because they thought the website was about something else? Or was that because they couldn't find what they were looking for, right? Is the layout of the page, does the page load quickly? Is the layout of the page confusing or not to people? These are kind of like post-processing tools once you have a site up. Yeah?
Like multivariation, A/B testing.
Yeah, Website Optimizer can do A/B testing. I've never used it personally, but I hear it's pretty useful. Has anyone used A/B testing and Website Optimizer? Yeah?
I tried
Analytics, yeah. So I've used analytics a ton. Analytics is extremely interesting, right?
But I want to ask about how slow is the website or fast opening? Is like Optimizer or Webmaster showing us how much time is?
Yeah, I believe Optimizer is the best tool to give you loading times. Yeah.
And show us what is delaying the website and what's not?
It's been a little while since I've touched it, to be honest. I don't think you get a detailed breakdown of specifically what is taking a long time to load, but I think you get aggregate times of how long it's taking on average this page to load. Then you can track that over time, so you can see, oh my god, my site's a lot slower now than it used to be. Maybe something went wrong.
So if I want to learn what's making it slow or fast, what should I learn or do?
Yeah, so come talk to me afterwards. But basically what we have is, we have tools that help you, for example, when you load your website, for example, if you go to Chrome, the Chrome browser, right, and you go into developer mode, you can turn on a timeline that shows you all the activity. It's like to load this website, the website first loaded the HTML, right, and the CSS, and then it went and it queried for all these images. And then it tried to run the JavaScript, and it puts it on a timeline, and you can see if there's something that's jumping out that's really slow in the way you've built the site. So that's a tool that helps you see if the way the site is built is good or bad. Then the analytics or optimizer approach gives you a sense of other people accessing the site, how fast or slow are the times for that?
It's this tool in Google Chrome for measuring the time for each JavaScript or CSS or HTML. It's within Chrome or it needs the extension?
Okay, don't quote me on this. I think it's in the default Chrome.
Extension or it's native?
I think it's default Chrome. I'm not sure if you have to download or enable like here, let me.
Directly with it.
It's what?
With it.
It's bundled, right? So if I go to something like this.
Developer tools.
Yeah.
Developer tools, okay, but it's not to use the
Timeline.
So I'm in Chrome right now, and then timeline. I don't know if I had to enable this, if I had to do something special to enable it in my Chrome, since I use this now. If I do a reload here.
Resource and the tools are always.
Okay, they're always there? Yeah. So this is clearly not going to work because any demos never work the way you want them to. But what should be happening right now, what's going on? Is basically, I should be seeing like when content is loading.
It's loading very constantly.
Yeah, I need a very slow website.
Try one of the average websites.
Well, it should still be seeing it here. Anyway, yeah, so we can debug this later, but it's a really interesting tool, so you can kind of understand all the stuff that's going behind the scenes, and that might be slowing you down. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about really high level what makes for good content. Now this isn't rocket science, it's all the stuff that I've talked about before. Yeah? What is App Engine? What about it? Yeah, so App Engine is basically a tool, it's like a hosting tool that Google provides, where you can upload, I think it's Python, Java, and I think there's a third language, but I can't remember what it is. And yeah, Python, Java, and I forget what the third one is. Is it Go? Okay, cool. And Go is the third language. And the idea is that it's a hosting provider, right, where you can build a website with a database, and it lives in the cloud. So, in the past, what happened if you had to run a server, that's going to host your website, you had to have one machine, and you put a web server on there, and you put your database on there. And let's say your site became super popular because everybody wanted this movie website, right? When you're going to get a lot of load, it would be painful to replicate it. Basically, it would be painful to add multiple servers at the same time to host your website, right? And the idea behind these cloud-based services, and a lot of companies do them, like Amazon has EC3, we have App Engine, is that once you put it on App Engine, Google's very, very good at replicating, at scaling these systems. And if you write it in the right way, basically you can just turn a knob and say, like, okay, I want you to be able to handle all the traffic that comes in, and we'll figure out how many different servers we need and how to load balance between those servers to make that work. And basically App Engine has like a data store, which means like a database. It lets you do like dynamic web pages, and it lets you do a really good job of load balancing. That's what I'd recommend it. It's free. You can play around with it, and then if your site gets really popular, then you have to start paying for bandwidth and usage. But yeah, there's a lot of the Amazon one's really popular. There's a startup that's called Heroku that's also become very popular because it lets you do Ruby on Rails, which is a different technology stack. But yeah. Questions on App Engine? Okay, cool. So what makes you get a mug? They give me a lot of mugs, which is cool. I mean, I'm glad you guys are talking. There's nothing more boring than that.
If you don't have it, give me one.
Oh yeah, you can talk too. Thank you. Okay, so what makes for good content? Number one thing is targeting. Yeah.
To be always updated.
To be always, oh yeah, to be always updated. That's not okay. I should have asked you guys. Well, no, it's pretty obvious. I think you get this right. So number one is got to be targeted, right?
I think number one is uniqueness.
Uniqueness.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that. Why do you say that?
When I publish content, no other places have it. I have target using without any difference.
Yeah. So
like.
So what you're saying, if it's unique, then that means people will see it because there's nothing else for people.
I think the people need it.
So I think there's a difference there, because something can be unique and maybe people don't need it, right? Because I can make a website that is on, I don't know, pink chihuahuas. Maybe people need that. But, if it's on pink chihuahuas, nobody might need that, but it's going to be unique. I think creating content where there's a need and there's very little other content out there is extremely important, right? And well, I'll talk about this in a second. So targeted, straightforward, right? Like, don't make your content general. The more targeted, the better. And the reason for this is that people put in a lot of different search queries into Google, so they're going to be coming at it from a lot of different angles. And if you have very specific content, you're going to get people exactly where they want to go, rather than having one page that's very general, very abstract, and then they'll have to read through the content. So we will rank specific targeted content higher. Local. Like, we put a high premium on content that is relevant to the location of the user, right? Because usually local content is more interesting. In the context of anything that's geographical, like if I search for pizza places, then it really, really matters that it's local. If I search for health information, it's not as direct, but it's also important that it's local. Like, people care and trust information that's closer to where they're coming from. Up to date, there we go. If you see a year on a page that's 5 years old, your trust in the site is going to go down immediately, right? So content that is fresh, it's updated, is a huge thing. And it's hard, it's not always the easiest thing for us to figure out what's the most up to date or not, but we're constantly trying to do that. Yeah.
Updated data, you mean update to update content or update the resources we are upload to the
No, I mean the content itself. Like, I don't want the content. I'm not saying you need to like change your site every week because it'll make us think that it's newer. I'm saying like make sure the content is as a human. When I look at the website, I feel like this isn't stale information. Like, the world hasn't changed since it was created.
What about the World Digital Library? Is a site have a lot of resources, cultural resources, updated not monthly, but yearly.
So you're saying the content itself isn't changing,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not gonna, like, the content's the content, right? So you're not gonna change it. What would be nice, perhaps, is if people are talking about that content, if there's a discussion or there are comments, for that to be up to date. So you feel like there is like a timely relationship, even though you're talking about something that might have been written 50 years ago, that you're not out of the loop. That this website feels fresh. Basically, what you want, the user wants to feel like somebody is taking care of this website and changing it if something relevant has changed. Yeah.
What's about small content every day?
Mm-hmm.
Like idea, ideas, some contents. I put all the users with me with small content every day.
Yeah.
They are more interested, like hot news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the question is, like, what about the approach of adding a little bit of content every day to a site, right?
Yeah.
Potentially from different users. I think it depends entirely on what vertical and what your website's for, right? If your site is something that people are going to keep coming back to and looking at it, giving them something new to look at is usually a good idea, because they'll learn to keep coming back because they'll get good content. If it's a website about health, for example, and like lung cancer, maybe a little update on lung cancer every day would feel forced, and wouldn't feel very serious, and that wouldn't make as much sense. So I think it's very specific to the content you're talking about. Yeah.
The time you needed Google to index new websites. What the time is?
Yeah. So this is the question that changes all the time and is very hard to answer correctly. I'm going to give you a very hand-washy answer. It depends on the site. Okay? Yeah, so we index sites that, for example, we index news sites much more frequently than we index like an encyclopedia that doesn't change very often, because we try to get the newest content indexed as quickly as possible. I am not going to, if you ask me later, I can give you a real number, but I'm not going to quote how long it actually takes. I'm not going to tell you if it's 5 hours or 3 days or 2 days, because I can't give you a real answer.
The average, no average. And if you upload a new website, to cache in Google or indexes in Google, it needs no average time, so one day or more.
Yeah, it's usually on the order of days. If it's like a new website, it should show up within like a day or two. That's been my personal experience on websites that I've put up. Sometimes it's been faster, but I don't think we make any guarantees on how long it's going to take. When you create a new website, you should tell Google about it. Like, we should find it anyway, but like when you create a new website, go to Google, I can show you the link later, and say, I've made a new website, here's where it is, make sure to take a look at it.
So if you meet your website on apps engine, I think it's going to be crawled.
Yeah, we're gonna crawl. But it still can't, because it's such a huge, complicated system, it can't hurt you to tell Google, here's my website, check it out. Because, I mean, the internet's a really big place, right? We have this super complex infrastructure to go around and like try to figure out all the different websites and where are the most important ones. So whatever signals you can give us to do a better job doing that will be good for you. I saw some hands. Yeah.
What's about up-to-date content, but its language is bad and we can't understand
Quality.
So up-to-date, really bad content. I don't think that's going to help you. Like if you put really bad content a lot on the internet, that actually might hurt you. You know, because if you're putting really bad stuff. I mean, do you have something? What are you thinking? Do you have an example in mind?
Yes. For example, if I'm in Saudi Arabia and I read an Egyptian content, I can't understand Egyptian language. Accent, that's different.
Ah, I see. So basically, you can't understand the content. That's what you're saying.
You will get less users, that's it.
Yeah, of course. So this goes back to the local question, like what I was saying about it being local. And local could be understood geographically or culturally or language-wise, right? So the easier it is to understand for your audience, the better it's going to do. So I don't know about this, but maybe for the same content, if you're going after the Egyptian and the Saudi market, it might be useful to have separate websites or have separate pages that are written in the right dialect or the right accent, or spoken in the right dialect. That might help you with traffic. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sorry.
Making websites on ASP.NET C#. So I want to know if when on Google search, when someone searches for something, is my database, the one on SQL server, going to be shown or only the HTML of the website?
So the HTML of the website is going to be what's shown. So basically, the way to think about what Google crawlers do, so crawlers are our robots that we go out and we look at all the web pages on the internet, we try to understand what they're about, right? And what they see is what humans would see, right? So if I, as a human, went to your website and did a search or whatnot, that's what these crawlers are going to see.
At first, for the website, it's going to bring the data. It's a database, not from the HTML. Because if you saw the HTML codes, it will bring the data from the database and stuff like that. So is it going to read only the HTML5 or after like?
Right, so see if I understand what you're saying. Let's say I land on a website and there's a search, I land on your website and let's say there's a search box. And when I type something into the search box, I get results that come from the database, right? So those results, that final page is going to be like an HTML page, right? And what the Google crawler will see there is the same thing that a human would see if they looked at that. Now what's important, and this is what I was talking about before, is this idea of a sitemap and like listing the content that you have, because the Google crawler won't know what to search for when it lands on your website. Right? So that's why you need to give us a way to figure out what's there. And again, you can come talk to me afterwards and I can give you some more detail on the right ways to do that.
Regarding to the same question, in some results when we search in Google, some hits take me to the site which has a database and searching it. This code, which appear on the search results. Who make it? Google or
Right, so say that again. So you're on Google, and then you click on a link. And
one of the results.
Yeah.
When you click it, you turn to another sites.
Yeah.
To make another search. Take my keyword and put it in syntax of searching.
Right.
In another site which have a database. This syntax which appear in the results.
Yeah.
Make it.
So that basically it's the site, it's the not Google, it's the other site that's set up in such a way that it does that. Yeah. Which can be good or bad depending on how it's done.
I think it's bad.
Yeah, it's like I won't go into that right now, but personally I don't think that's usually the best interface because it's like adding another layer of indirection to the user from the content that they actually want. but it can also be used.
Codeproject.com. Codeproject.com.
Codeproject.com. Okay.
He's having like that.
I'll check
If you
that
are
out.
writing in Google, then it will automatically search it.
Okay. Yeah.
What about make people update it? Update the content. Make the people, visitors,
Yeah.
members, update something content on your blog or your website. Like
Wikipedia.
like
Like Wikipedia.
this make things today.
Yeah.
Different people, different area,
Yeah.
different make that.
Yeah. So here I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because I want to get to this point, which is I think the overarching answer to these questions is not what's the best way to game or manipulate Google to get a higher search result. The best answer is like how do I focus on the user? How do I give the best answer to the search that the user had, right? Because what Google is doing, we're spending all our time and all our engineers are trying to figure out what's the most relevant content on the internet and how do we show it to people, right? So your question of like, what about having people update the site all the time? Well, it might be good or bad, right? If having people update the site creates better content and it makes people happier, then that should be good, right? If you just have people posting random crap to the website, it's not going to be helpful. Does that make sense? And basically, we're going to be changing.
Most of it here for not be free. يعني some rules, some make for good content.
For sure. I mean, like Wikipedia is fantastic. Like Wikipedia is one of the most popular websites on the internet, right? And it was written exclusively by users of it. And I don't think anyone here would say Wikipedia is not useful, right? Like Wikipedia is a very useful, great website written by people. But what I'm saying is just because a lot of people are posting content to a website won't necessarily make it good, right? And here's the basic idea. Like you can a lot of people try to focus on getting higher search results, higher search ranking, right? And as a Googler, I'm going to say this, but I really do believe it's true. I don't think you should focus on trying to get the highest search result. I think you should try to focus on getting the best content. Because if we do our job correctly, you will get the higher search result. And the way it works is that you post your content, you'll get higher search result. And if you get higher search result, more people will go. We track when people click on search results, and we get a sense of whether they like the website or not. We get a sense of whether they went there and then left immediately, right? Or if they went there, they stayed. Or if they went back a few times, right? And we use that information back into the search results. So it should be this like very healthy loop where the best content goes to the top. And as a philosophy, like this is the best advice I can give. Yes?
When I know the contact information of I will trust the content.
Say that again, the contact?
When I know the contact information, when I know the content information after, I will trust the content.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and then, yeah.
Do you think it's a good idea to invest in Google AdWords or at the beginning, so that you can get paid?
Yeah.
At the beginning, and then.
So the question is it a good idea to pay for advertising, such as Google AdWords, to draw traffic to your site at the beginning to jumpstart it? I think it might be useful when you create a new website, it may take a while to get traffic, right? And if you're trying to improve that website, optimize it, see if it's useful or not, having more traffic is a useful signal because you can see what people are doing, if people are leaving comments, and if the fastest way for you to get to that state is to pay for it with ads, be it on Google or Facebook or any other platform, then I think it's a very useful tool, right? I know a lot of people, for example, test the name, let's say the name of the website, right? Maybe you want to call it, let's say for the movie example, I don't know, Movie Master or like Movie Ninja, like which of these two is better, or Movie Samurai. some people will run ads on Google and see which ones people click on because it makes more sense to them, right? So I've heard people using ads as a tool, but I don't think paying for ads will not in itself make your website go up in search rankings, right? Like, I mean, there's a very clear separation between like things we take money for, you know? Exactly, and not sponsored stuff. Let's see if over here, yeah, fast, clean. This is also pretty straightforward. Question? Yeah.
Not duplicated. The good content is not duplicated with other sites.
Yes. So stealing content from other websites, right, is not a good idea. Are you saying
not stealing, but the price of Arab websites is the same information in the marketing sites. It's the same.
Right.
News is the same. It's the same. Post is the same.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's identical, then it's not going to be useful. But like the same content presented in a different way, or maybe with like a different opinion or a different perspective, you know. Yeah, and then that's very valuable. For example, like I forget the name of it, but there's like one website that's in the top 30 websites in Saudi, which is on like women's issues, right? And I think they have a lot of content you could find in other places, but from a different perspective, for example. Yeah, exactly. I think that was it. So, like, that's usually an interesting approach. Yeah.
I think a good thing to mention is accessibility. So, the size for people with like poor eyesight, or even things like if you're using Flash,
yeah,
it might not work on a whole stream of devices.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I didn't put that on here. Thank you. So, accessibility is like make sure people can get to the website, to your content, right? And that might be, you know, if it's something that people are going to be accessing on their mobile phones a lot of websites, when you try to look at them on a mobile phone, are very hard to read because they're not made for it. Yeah?
What is the best way to get a high rank in Google search?
So the best way to get a high ranking in Google search, create really good content.
Even if there is good content, Google search is not giving proper.
We're not doing a good job?
No, I'm not saying that.
I mean, we're not doing a great job, trust me. Like we're trying to do as good as we can, right? It's a hard problem.
Actually, than other search engines. Google is giving better results than other search. But there is something, okay, even if they are doing good,
yeah,
sometimes it's not getting.
Sure. So I think an important aspect that I haven't talked about is one is make the content really good. The other one is try to get other people to talk about it, to link about it. So it's like don't be off on your own in a corner. If you're creating very valuable content on a topic, get the other thought leaders, the other respected sites or bloggers or whatever to engage in a dialogue with your content, because that will give us another signal to say, oh, this is really good.
It's been posted in some other forums about my site or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that really should happen organically. Like if you are an expert, if you have really good content on something, people usually get excited about that, link to it, other websites will talk about it, and it should happen on its own. If you're starting out, whatever you can do to push that, if you reach out to other bloggers or you push out to other forums, can be helpful.
What about the metadata? Has a role in this?
What about metadata?
Metadata, yes.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Has a role in the ranking of our site?
Well, so Google looks at a lot of different signals when you rank websites. There's some basic stuff you should put in your metadata, so we have an understanding of what your site's about. For example, some tags. And they're very specific. It's not very complicated. It's not like this crazy art voodoo science like some people make it out to be. And there are specific rules on what you're supposed to do with that. I can point you to information. But it's not. I don't think it's a very big factor from my understanding.
Is there about mobile designing and desktop design websites? Is there anything that can help us design a website for mobiles and with desktop other than CSS?
So the question is, are there technologies or packages that would make it easier to design things for mobile?
And websites, like if and desktop.
Yeah, so I don't have a very good answer for that, right? Like, people have been talking about HTML5 for a very long time because it lets you have more advanced interactivity in the browser itself, and a lot of web mobile sites use HTML5. But to be honest, I'm not an expert in terms of the toolkits that are best for that. Let me keep going. Like, I have plenty of time, so I'll stay here for like the next hour, so I can field as many questions. I just want to make sure I get through my slides in case. Yeah. Did you have another? Yes, definitely. That's right. You're interesting. Very good. Thank you.
Can we see the next slide for the money?
Money, money, money.
Yes.
Okay. So, AdSense and AdMob. Basically, I'm going to pull up a website here. This is, I think, one of the, if not the most popular news website in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Looks familiar. So, this banner ad up here. Yeah, see this. This is run by AdSense, which means it's our advertising platform that is putting that ad on there. Very, very quick summary of how this kind of stuff works. If you have a website, people who go and look at that website, you want to make some money on it, you want to run some advertising on it, right? You can either go out and directly try to convince people to put ads. You can go door by door, call them up, knock on them and say, give me $10 and I'll put this advertising on there. Or you can go to an advertising platform, right? Such as Google's AdSense advertising platform. And what you do is, on your code, you put a little bit, on your website, you put a little bit of code that says, put ad here, it needs to be this big, and it has your personal ID, so Google knows who you are and what types of ads we should serve them. And then, when users come to your page, they see your page, they load this stuff from you, and they load this from our ad servers, okay? And then, depending on the type of model you have, when people click on this ad, or there's CPA or CPM, basically like, sometimes you get paid from people just looking at the ad, sometimes you get paid from clicking through on the ad, right? And that's how you get money, right? That's very high level. Does that make sense? Yes?
What is AdMob?
What is AdMob?
AdMob.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that, yeah. So that's the basic idea behind banner advertising, right? So AdSense and AdMob. AdMob is a company we acquired a little while ago to do the same thing as AdSense but for mobile devices, right? So to do banner or advertising on mobile. Ads come from Google. Advertisers earn revenue when people click on ads, free to participate.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it like game? Because AdSense games, it's you have to put 1 million or something. 1 million clicks or something.
You have to have 1 million clicks to be able to advertise in games.
Yeah. Or something like that.
I'm not sure. So the good news is that there's a whole session tomorrow. There are 2 sessions that do a deep dive on AdSense. So if this is something you want to do, my colleague Neda is running it, and she's an expert. So basically, you can sit down for an hour and figure out exactly the right way to do it. I'm just going to do like a high-level overview for people who might be interested. What?
Just show or just I think impressions and
Impressions and clicks. Yeah, and you can kind of convert between the two because usually like. If X number of people look at a banner, a certain percentage of them end up clicking, but it can be either. So you get a sense there are millions of different advertisers on the Google network who are paying to get these ads. We spend a lot of time and effort to try to match the best content ads for your website, and we try to do we learn over time. So basically, what we'll do is we'll start showing ads that we think are relevant to your website, and we'll see if people click on them or not. If they're not, then what we'll do is we'll switch it. And the type of return you're going to get, like how much money you're going to get, depends on the type of vertical that you're in. So, for example, if you are a website about like electronic gadgets, maybe like digital cameras, the ads we're going to show are probably going to be digital camera related, right? Which means that advertisers are probably going to pay a lot of money for those ads because there's a good chance you might actually go and buy a digital camera. So depending on the vertical that you're in, the amount of money you make can vary significantly, right? So usually verticals that are closer to an actual like a buying action are worth a lot. Okay? Yeah.
How to make a good meta tag for my website?
Make a good what?
Meta tag.
Meta tag website. What do you mean by that exactly? Maybe I don't understand.
So when I search on the website on Google, I need the information, information about the description.
So the description underneath. Yeah. The description underneath. Oh, okay, that's cool. So basically, what happens when you search for Google, you get the page title, you get the URL, and then you get some lines, right?
The description.
Well, so it's a bit more complicated than that, right? Yeah. So it can be the description of the website that you can put in, but it depends how fancy you want to get. if you want to make something that's nicer or more formatted, there's something we call rich snippets. And basically you, as a website owner, can specify, oh, here's the important information I think you should highlight in the Google search results. So if you've ever done a search for, let's see, let me see if I can pull up an example here. So if you see here, this is a search for Christopher Nolan's a movie director in IMDb, and this here was specified by IMDb, right? So you see, like here, this other website. Well, this is also IMDb or whatever. I guess it's all IMDb. But if it's not, this is just plain text here. Whereas here, they, for example, put in the rating, right? That's because IMDb specified these rich snippets saying, for this page, this rating is useful information as a snippet, and here's what it is, and you should show it on Google search results. And here, the same thing they did. Here, they pulled out what they thought were the most important aspects of that site that people might be searching for, and they linked it.
Rich snippets.
Rich snippets, yeah.
The same with the description, right?
Yeah, but exactly. It's the same thing, but you need to format it the right way, right? So it's like if you just put a plain text description with different sections, we're not going to understand it. There's like a special way to put the tags, so we'll be like, oh, okay, this is what they want us to do. So, cups. That's why you guys are here. Yeah.
Meta keywords.
Meta keywords.
It's ignored by Google. I asked this question. I have a misunderstanding on this point. I listened. Google is ignored meta keywords.
That we're entirely ignoring meta keywords?
It's true. Or
I did not think that was the case, but I can find an answer to that if you want. I'm not going to give you a definitive answer because I don't know. I don't think we ignore it. I think we used to give more importance to keywords, and what we've done is that we've given less importance to it as we looked at other signals. But I don't think we ignore it entirely. But if come find me afterwards or give me your email, and then I can find an answer for that because you should get an answer. Millions of publishers on the Google network. Yeah.
How can we have the slides?
How can we have the slides? It's going to be published on the. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's an easy way I can. Well, it'll be here.
Here, so I'll give you my screen or something. Yeah. I'm from Google Club.
Okay.
So if you want us to put the data, we can put it.
Yeah, that'd be great. So the slides will be available at this URL. They're not there right now. They'll be available later today. And then if you give me a USB stick, I'll give you a hard copy of the slides.
Can I give it to you now?
Yeah.
it
Sure.
will be online after 2 days, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. So it'll be online too. Yeah, and then again, there's going to be a detailed AdSense, 2 AdSense sessions tomorrow. So if you have questions about that, come to those. That was the high-level overview of content. Now, if you have more questions about content, I'm happy to talk about it. If you have questions about, I'm also a product manager at Google, so that means I spend my time working and building on new products and new features. If you have any questions about our process there, I'm happy to talk about that too. There are other sessions going on, so if anyone wants to switch sessions, go for it. I'm going to hang out here. Yeah?
Is there any way to measure the duplication of the content?
Any way to measure the what?
Measure the duplicated content on the web.
Duplicated content on the web. That's a really good question. And I'm sure there are tools, but I don't know what the answer is to that.
There is a tool.
Does anyone know if there is an easy way to figure out what's duplicated content?
You search for it.
You can search for it. Yeah, that's a.
You'll see how many guys.
How did it search for the whole content?
No, just take a paragraph, put it there, see if it's repeats itself.
The search bar has a limit.
You want the first line?
There is Google.
I think there is a tool.
Google Scholar.
I think you also take it.
There is a tool.
Yeah, you're talking about plagiarism, right? Like you want to know if someone's copying your content?
Something like that. I think Google has developed tools to measure the duplication of the content, whole content of the
Interesting. That's possible. I don't know the answer to that. I know that if you do, this is probably not that useful to you, but if you do,
because this is our crisis. content. We have
Okay.
a lot of topical content.
Come to me afterwards, and then I'll look into it because I can find a good answer to that. Just give me your contact information. If you do a search for images on image search, you can see similar images, and you guys have seen that. So I mean, since we're looking at all the content on the web, we should have a pretty good idea of what's duplicated or not. I just don't know.
Concerning the image searching at this point, the results based on the content of the page, it has an image or the image specification.
Yeah. So see if I understand correctly, you're asking how do we figure out that these are similar? So basically, there's two things we look at. One is the pixels. So we look at the image. An image is made up of individual pixels, right? So one is looking at the pixels themselves. We also use information of the website on which the photo shows up as a signal, right? So it's a bunch of keywords and metadata that come from the website plus the pixels themselves, and then connected together. That's how we come up with the ranking.
I want to ask you about something. I think the future there will be websites in 3D.
3D websites.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have? Is there anything in Google that like maybe forecasting what the future of website was, the things?
So I don't know if you guys were around if you guys were hanging out on the internet in the late 90s, but in like 98, 99, a lot of people thought that the future of websites were going to be these 3D websites you could walk around in, right? And there's a language called VRML, which was basically, it's funny, a lot of these startups, this was right during the internet boom, said 3D is the new 2D, right? And they're like, I'm going to rebuild my whole website as this world that I can walk around in, you know? And you could actually like walk around and turn and press on things, and nobody used it because it was really painful and it was very slow. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot to do with 3D stuff.
Already some websites have this feature, this flash.
Right, and a lot of stuff is Flash-based as well. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's like for 3D content. Google has a huge initiative around creating 3D models of buildings for Google Earth. And there's a huge community of people online who build these models of different things in different places. So clearly there's a lot of interest around 3D. It's just, okay, my desktop is, let me give this man his slides so we can get out of here. But yeah, I don't think, what you saw in the presentations earlier today about, I don't know if you saw Hamazawi's presentation about the 12 things that are going to happen this year. I think that's about as far out as we project. Like Google usually looks at trends in terms of users and, basically where are users coming online, what are they doing online, what technologies are becoming available, and they speculate a little bit less on like these kind of, not artistic, but suggestive developments that might happen. It's interesting. It's very hard to predict something like a Twitter happening. It's almost impossible to do that. Or Pinterest, if you guys have heard about Pinterest, which is now becoming very popular. Yeah.
What isn't the Google next plan or future plans for make the search bar can answer your question, like website's name Alpha, I think it's Alpha. Alpha for web, it's using for Siri and iPhone.
Yeah.
What is technology? Is it new technology or is it?
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is like, it's right now you put in words into Google search, and then we try to show you pages that match that or are as relevant as possible. What we're not doing is taking what you write and understanding what the meaning is, right? So if I ask you, if you say, Google, what's the weather today? We'll probably figure out that weather is what you care about, and then we'll show you pages that have to deal with weather. But we don't understand that you're asking me that question, right? So this is what's called like natural language processing, or NPL.
It's
NLP.
NPR?
NLP, natural language processing, right? And so what I can tell you is that as any search engine would be doing today, like you're spending a lot of time trying to build that out, right? Like a better understanding of what users are actually asking, and like a conversational dialogue, like something that Siri's doing is something that's clearly interesting to Google and we'd like to do, but we don't have any public plans of releasing something like that at the moment. So that's basically a not very useful answer, but we're clearly thinking and working on it. But how that's going to come out and when is.
But I think it will be available, and it's working on it. You will answer your question.
I mean, you can.
The question mark in the
Slides?
the question mark in the when you put the question mark, take it by this. Take it. It's question, it's a question or not.
Right now we're not doing anything smart with that. Right now we're not. I don't believe the fact that you had a question mark in there. We interpret that as meaning. We might use that as a better signal in terms of ranking, but not in terms of understanding. Yes.
When the Google Voice and Google TV will be available in the Middle East?
That's a great question, and I have no idea. if you email me though, like again, these are the type of things where I can find the right person inside the company and try to get you answers. But I can just tell you bullshit.
I think Hansel showed us some dates.
Did he give you dates? So maybe it's. I mean, yeah, this is the kind of thing where it's even hard for me to comment on because there's a lot of licensing and legal restrictions. So even if the technology were ready, it doesn't necessarily mean that something's going to be launched. For example, I don't know what the status is with the Android market, but I know Android market's not launched in a lot of different countries in the Middle East, and it's not that we can't technically do it, it's that there are other things that are stopping us from doing it, so I don't really know the answers. I feel like some of you guys deserve mugs.
One more.
You want a mug? You have
Yes.
Okay, one for you. Yeah. Here, I got a few more. Could you start passing these back? Yeah. Go ask some questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was this useful as a presentation? Was it too basic?
I'm waiting for it from that one.
What do you think I should give this presentation later? What should I talk about more? What would have been more interesting? I mean, I think your questions have all been very useful. Did you get quality?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes. Yeah.
Quality of website, especially Arabic website.
Yeah.
There is an issue of right to left.
Yes.
So lots of people using, for example, that are free or paid, and they just flip the tags from LTR to RTL.
Yeah.
And they post Arabic content there that's going completely out of direction.
Yeah.
Especially when they use Arabic and English words.
Yeah.
So when I go first time to this website and I see everything left to right, I totally.
That's a huge point. I didn't bring that up, but so I used to work. Do you guys ever heard of iGoogle?
Yes.
So it's this site. So one of the teams I ran at Google was the team that took iGoogle and made it right to left, and it was really painful because iGoogle was built out of these little gadgets on the page, and when we first tried turning on the left to right to right to left, everything broke, right? And the problem is that as this gentleman just said, the tools for doing layout conversion from right to left to right to right to left are really bad still. And Google's working on a bunch of stuff internally that helps us do it more easily. But I feel like any kind of how do I say this? There's a big rule there for the open source community to make that easier. Because I think that's a big hindrance. I think that's one of the reasons why we're talking about there's not as much content and Arabic content online is because it's not as easy to put stuff out there. You can't reuse a lot of the templates. You can't reuse a lot of the stuff that's already existing. Yeah.
There's also about monetizing your branding website. Other than advertising, there are lots of startups like TechCrunch and others who they were acquired. By larger companies. So this is a good thing. Recently we had a website for like a very popular game, Paper Cards.
Yeah.
And it was acquired for $10 million.
I see.
In Saudi Arabia. It was started here in Saudi Arabia.
What's the name of the website?
It's Kamilna. And a company in Turkey acquired Kamilna for $10 million. That was just 2 months ago. So I think about monetizing. We're lacking here. We have a problem in e-commerce in general in the region related to payments. So there is no much thing to do. And I know Google has checkout, I think, service or Google Wallet. So those are products that we are looking forward to support the industry.
I know it's something that from my understanding, unfortunately, it's probably going to be a few years out before like e-commerce is so developed in like Saudi Arabia, for example. But like that'll be a huge move to all these kind of websites, right? Because it's a whole like monetization stream, which is a lot harder to do these days.
It's blocked by the one person who is just he has the power or something in the agency for Muslim. But he's some people who they're just waiting for, I don't know, for something to happen before. But if you have, for example, like PayPal, they are now supporting Saudi-based credit cards, so that they can transfer money. If you check out using PayPal, they can transfer money as a merchant, owner of the website. They can transfer money to my credit card as a solution.
But the fees are quite high.
I think so, yeah.
Because
it's not supported as a
right, exactly. Which is again unfortunate, just because it cuts down on your margins of what you can do. But it's better than nothing, right?
No, it's not big money.
It's not big money?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought maybe I might be wrong. I thought the fees were about twice of what they were asking in other countries.
Same.
So about maybe one more about good content. And like I went to Chinese website that teach manga and stuff like that.
Chinese website?
That teach manga or manga.
Oh, manga.
Yeah, kind of those. So translated from Chinese to English. So the content was above each other. I don't know. It was not as structured as it was seen in Chinese.
Yeah.
So maybe that. Web content or to make creating better content, what should we avoid? Like if I went in a mid-Arabic website, I know that someone from America maybe
would like to be able to see it. You can translate it in such a way. That's a really good question, and I don't have a detailed enough understanding to give you a useful answer to that. Because I think it comes down to. I mean, there's translation of the actual text, right? And then there's layout. And Google Translate's not going to change the layout, for example. It's just going to translate the text.
Analyze the data about the region, and we would like to utilize the session in a way that we get out from you. And any other questions we can take, of course, ask you.
Sure.
One of the comments about the first percentages you mentioned,
Yeah.
1% users, 2%. Do you consider, or do you have any idea about the Arabic users who are creating content in English? Because sometimes we do this, so to take into account, we not.
That's a good point. I don't know about that. What we have done, we've looked at the opposite, which is we've looked at which websites people, like Arabic users, when they're looking at foreign language websites, like websites in English, like which of them do they translate a lot? You know, to get a sense of, okay, presumably if they're translating a lot of these types of websites, maybe it's because there's a lack of them in the region. The result there was there are a lot of porn websites, for example, that people were trying to translate. So because there's not a lot of local porn, which makes sense. But I've never thought about the other way around, about people here creating content in English, presumably for this market and other markets, right?
For a smaller market, Kuwait, so a smaller market.
Yeah.
We consume and also produce content in
English. It's a very good point. I don't believe that's been taken into account in this analysis at all.
I think specialized websites, maybe like IT websites.
Right. A lot of that's going to be.
Our field, our field software engineering. So it's I'm not going to write a good article in Arabic about software engineering because it will be one word in Arabic and then the term in English.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. But it's The interesting question there is, are your users, if your users can read it in English, then you're not competing with content from all over the world, right? You're competing with all English content, unless the nature of the content is local in some way. Like it could be written in English about like design practices in the Middle East, for example. But yeah, no, I haven't thought about that. Yes?
From Google perspective, what we really need to increase our Arabic web content?
What do we need, you're saying?
To increase our Arabic
I mean,
web content.
in general, I think
we need institutions.
Personally, okay, this is not Google. This is my personal opinion. I think the incentives need to be there. So I think that the incentives need to be there so that people like get money or get users or get whatever they need to you know, whatever, something good to create content, and then usually it solves itself, right? Like if there's a lot to gain from creating good content online, usually people who are more entrepreneurial or more interested in starting their own things will do that. And I think that the problem a lot of times are these barriers around e-commerce, you know, and barriers around like ease with which you can publish content that slow things down. So I would say probably making it hard to make, like it's hard to make money, you know, so making that easier would go a long way. And then like technology, that making it easier from a technology perspective to be able to publish this content. That's why I think things like YouTube, for example, like YouTube's been exploding recently, as you guys have heard, right? And I think part of the reason there is that
exploding with trash clips, most of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can make that. That's true about YouTube everywhere, right? Like what happens with YouTube is that if you're going to say trash clips, like a large percentage of it are trash clips, but we're talking about billions and billions of views, right? And so even if like 2% of YouTube clips, videos are useful in your opinion, that's still a lot of content that's available. So I think sites like that are kind of nice because, you know, as long as you know how to make a video, then you don't really have to deal so much with all the technical questions that come up. So, but if you have ideas, let me know. This is something that Google cares a lot about, right? Like basically, our goal is make the internet as useful as possible and accessible to people, right? And if there's nothing on the internet that people are interested in, then it's not useful, right? So helping promote content creation in the region is a very important thing.
Another question about Google Chrome.
Sure. I mean, I'll do my best to answer. Are there any other questions about content stuff specifically? Otherwise, I'll take questions about anything. And if any of you would like my email or something like that, let me know, and I'll put it out. Yeah. Do this. I forgot all my business cards. So that's my email. I'll put down my name too. Yeah, so my name's Chris. Just email me. If you have any questions, really, I sit on this. The whole thing will probably fall out. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, email me any questions you might have. I'll do my best to get you, the best answer possible from within Google. Yeah. So you had a question about Chrome? Yeah.
Chrome has one internal application for PDF readers.
Okay.
You can read from Google Chrome.
PDFs, yeah.
Is it Google is providing an API to use that reader?
Are we providing an API to use a viewer? I have no idea. I don't think so. It would be my guess, but I don't know.
Because it's a good feature.
It's a good feature. You like it, so you'd like to be able to use it somewhere else. Is that the idea? Send me an email about it if you want, but I don't think there's anything.
We've waited a long time for Android to be natively support everything. And finally, thank God we did it. But it's still the right and left functional.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, I know. It's something that Google has gotten better at over the years, but it's still not great at, and it's something that I don't know. So unfortunately, it moves in steps. So at first, Google was very English-based, right? So then, after a few years, we were like, oh my God, we need to translate it because everything can be in English, right? So that's the first thing that happened. Then, going from just being able to translate text to actually supporting right to left is from a technical perspective another good job, So then we tried to do that and build tools internally that support it, and we're getting, there are, for example, internal goals of whenever you launch a product, you try to launch a RTL version of that product within 6 months or within a certain amount of time. But it's unfortunately still very hard, and we don't do a great job. It's something the company cares about, and is trying, but we're not happy with how far we've come.
Yeah, because it's very complex.
Yeah.
Because you have across this script. So three
What do you mean scripting? What's the
I mean,
scripting?
it's even if we have writer, you still have in Arabic. We have different forms of the letter, whether it's in the middle of the word or at the end of the word.
Oh, I see.
So sometimes in I think it was Charts, Google Charts API used it. It displayed the letters correctly in Arabic, but they were not linked.
Connected. Oh, I see. That's what you mean. Yeah. No.
So,
The language it's too intricate. It's too pretty. You know, that's the problem. Yeah.
I think it's an issue of styling. If you are able to advance, like they can go in parallel. We already advanced in translation. You know, Google Translate improved a lot. In terms of English to Arabic translation. The other thing is about styling and creating proper rules for CSS or HTML mainly, and it comes also for Android or other programs.
So I'm curious. So who needs to create those rules, and where does that need to happen? Are you talking about like having a certain standard?
Some sort of standards.
That's kind of like accepted between like.
Yeah, it's not enough to have someone who speaks Arabic to tell you, okay, this is a good page for as an Arabic that has Arabic content. I think you need to have some sort of designer perspective. Who can look into it. I was in Dubai 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There were conferences for Arab designers.
Yeah.
And I met someone who made an Arabic font for Android. His name is Pascal. And he's the one I think he was recruited by Google to create that font. And this is a good step. And I think there is other steps that can be also supported by Google to, for example, recruit Arab designers.
Yeah.
Just
what we'd be very interested in is so for example, when I worked on the iGoogle RTL, when we worked on trying to make iGoogle RTL, like our engineers worked on it, and then we basically had people inside the company who spoke Arabic but give a lot of feedback and use it in different ways, and then we had some designers look at it. We have very few Arab designers at Google right now. What I think would be very interesting would be if anyone has any ideas on a more kind of scalable approach, because if we just have a designer can only look at so many pages at a time, you know, and then if we have to manually have to change it, it's, you know, we'll get there, but it's slower. If you have any ideas from like a standards perspective or, you know, like a best practices perspective or something like that could be helpful, that would be great. And it's clearly something that we're struggling with, you know.
I think with a partnership with you said in the beginning that Saudi Arabia is now generating
a lot of
content.
Yeah.
So maybe I know Google had a partnership with the Saudi Post agency to improve addressing in Saudi Arabia, and did a lot. Like now I'm using Google Maps tremendously. I don't even use all methods at all, just because this kind of partnership. If you talked before about putting standards and stuff, maybe no one will ask. But when you make a partnership with government agencies, for example, King Abdulaziz City here for science technology, I don't know, there is a commission for telecommunication electronics, who is responsible also for electronic websites and electronic content, and transition from regular government to e-government and stuff like that. So maybe some sort of partnership with those places can help to accelerate this.
It's an interesting idea, yeah.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
I know you want a scalable, automatic way you can make the machines do it.
Yeah, ideally.
You want a scalable. So a lot of them will be facing issues for web design, especially in Arabic. That the elements has to be symmetric, maybe, or they have to if you only change one or the layout of the whole document from left to right to right to left, what breaks is the elements that are especially not symmetric. That's because sometimes I can only switch one tag and the whole if it was done properly, proper CSS and the layout.
The problem is that you're never going to like people are always going to make websites that aren't.
No, of course you're not gonna. It's not. I don't think it's this we're going to translate other people's websites. Maybe it will not be.
They will follow. When you put the
I see. But you're saying
they will follow.
like we could do that ourselves and kind of like set an example.
Are we talking about translating from object to English? Or
No, I'm talking about like when we, if I understood correctly, what you're saying is like when we launch products or websites that follow design principles that are somewhat symmetric, so that it would be easier. That's what you're suggesting, right?
And because this will solve the right to left if you only switch the right to left, everything will be.
Are you a developer? Or
Yeah, I'm a software engineer.
Software engineer. Focusing on front end stuff or back end?
I started. So at the beginning I did a lot of web development stuff, focusing on front end. Now I do.
Okay, yeah. So you guys are pretty familiar.
Normally, in Saudi Arabia, the developers they are working for everything, front end, back end, everything.
Yeah,
we have more specialized now. From Kuwait, we are more specialized. But I've done my share of dealing with not translating, switching the UIs for English websites or English open source scripts and making them look work properly from right to left. So I know exactly what your team might have gone through. So imagine doing this every time.
Yeah.
We have a complete step after we finish to fix everything.
Is there any similar problem in other countries, like Chinese, something or only right to left?
Really?
No, other
Besides right to left?
Yeah.
There is 4 or 5 main languages, like Chinese.
Yeah, Korean. Was it Korean? I think is up like top down. Hindi's left to right though, isn't it?
No, for some testifying or language, global language, they are using major 4 or 5 languages. Is there sometimes I found?
Yeah, I know there's some. I mean, the best answer. I know there are some Asian languages that are up like.
Especially Arabic.
You go. What is it? It's vertical and then right to left. So it's kind of like the opposite of what we're used to. But yeah, what's interesting with that, I feel it's like the layout just breaks entirely, and it's just like there's not much hope. Whereas with like right to left, left to right, it's close enough where you think it'd be nice if we could get that to work. Cool. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. So, like I said, send me an email. It was, like, especially, I'd love to have more conversations with you if you have questions, if there's anything I can do to help.